Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a little bit of a more casual vlog style video. Kind of just talking to you all a little bit. Sorry, my animals, if you hear them, they're in a playful mood right now. So I'm kind of just going to talk to you all a little bit about RV living during the winter time. So I know that some people travel around with their trailers a lot. That's what most people who RV full-time do, I think, or else it's just a lot of what you see. But I guess I need to preface this by saying we do not move around with our camper yet. We haven't really traveled with it or anything. All we do right now is it's stationary and we live in it. We do live in an area that has all 4 seasons, and winters can get down below 0. So we have experienced some of those days where it is below 0. The wind chill has been terrible some days. So as this being our first year as living full-time, we've kind of seen it all, done it all. We are halfway through winter, and I feel like this second half is gonna go a lot better because we've got the first half down, and I really feel like hopefully, I might jinx this, I probably should knock on wood. We feel like hopefully now that the cold weather has kind of run its course, and that hopefully now it'll just be normal winter temperatures like 30 and above, because 30 and above is pretty good. Like, we've felt like 30 and above, 34 and above has been pretty good, not hard to deal with or anything like that. So I guess I just want to casually talk through some things that we've experienced, what we've went through, some of the questions you might have. So what do you expect? Like, what to expect when it's winter, or living in an RV in winter? Just the biggest thing I wrote down, cold. It is cold, obviously. The snow and stuff like that really hasn't been an issue as far as RV living. Like, we haven't had issues really with snow, but just the cold, frigid temps. So as you know, the walls in an RV are, or camper, whatever you want to call it, are not thick. They're not very insulated, if they're insulated at all, which I really don't think they are. So you've got to kind of battle with those temperatures and figuring out how exactly it's going to work for you. So what we have done, I know that I kind of showed you all before, we did underpin our camper. We just basically did like underpinning, which was aluminum, which obviously is not the most insulated. It's definitely a budget-friendly option. We created a frame around the bottom of the camper and then just nailed the aluminum to it. We didn't do any insulation or anything under it. Our main goal with this was just blocking the wind from whipping underneath. That way it would be less likely to freeze our pipes, and you know, it would help with the temperature on the floor. And honestly, what we have experienced so far is our pipes still have frozen and our floor is still pretty cold, and it's only when it's super duper cold. You know, when it gets to 0 and below, even like in the teens, I don't know how much it helps with that, but when it's like 30s and stuff like that and our pipes are freezing, it definitely, I think, has helped in that retrospect. So I think maybe had we done more insulation, it would help with the below zeros. But then again, I mean, that's a 30-degree difference. I don't know how much it would have helped, but I do have other ways to help prevent that when it does get that low that we've kind of figured out. So as far as heat goes, we do have our main source of heat for the camper is gas, and honestly, as newbie RVers, that makes me super nervous, mainly because the first part we had taken off our carbon monoxide detector in order to paint, because it would constantly go off because of the fumes, and we didn't have that hooked back up correctly. So I was waiting for my stepdad to hook that up, so we just were not using the gas mainly because of that. It is now hooked back up, thank goodness. But I'm still not comfortable yet using the gas, because I do know of people who have RV'd for stationary for a period of time, and that was one of their biggest issues, was when they used their gas. They had a lot of carbon monoxide issues. I'm not saying that to scare you and say like don't use your gas, because obviously a lot of people don't have access to electricity, and so when you are like RVing full time and you're moving around, that gas option might be your only option. So I just think for us, we have access to electricity, so I don't think that we really wanted to risk that yet. I'm not saying like next year we might do gas, because I do think it'll be a lot cheaper. So what we are doing right now is we are using 2 different like space heaters. So we have one floor heater, which is what we brought from our rental home and that we're using. And it worked really, really well by itself for a long time. We ended up having to bring another one in here because it just could not heat the entire space when it was in the teen degrees. So once it got to about 20 and below, we definitely have to have 2 heaters going. would even say 25 and below. We have to have 2 heaters going just for it to be able to heat the down here like living space as well as up there on our bathroom. So luckily the past week or two we haven't had to be running 2 heaters. I am terrified to see what my electric bill is going to be for January, because oh gosh, we've been having 2 heaters running full time. My bill did double in the month of December. So it was like from like in September, October, the bill was about $60, but in December it did jump up to $140. So it more than doubled. So still, that's not really bad compared to a rental home or anything like that, but I am kind of nervous to see in January what it's gonna be. One other thing that that I found really helpful when it got down into like the negatives and stuff like that is having a heated blanket up on our bed. We ended up getting one for Christmas, and I promise, I keep saying it's been my saving grace when it's come to living in a camper during winter time, because our bed, I'm not kidding, we have like a mattress that's like a normal mattress that the previous owner brought in here. It was pretty new. And then a mattress topper that's about this thick. I swear that topper freezes, and it gets really hard when it's been pretty cold and we come back home or whatever and it's in the negatives. So having that heated blanket helps it get more like not so hard quicker, and it just keeps you warm throughout the night, because obviously the nighttime is the hardest. I will say that the floors do get pretty cold, not near as cold as it was when we didn't have the underpinning. I still just have to wear socks or slippers and then I'm fine. But I'm telling you, before we had underpinning and it got below 30, it was bitter. Like you couldn't even hardly walk on the floors without having socks or slippers or something on. Dirk, are you giving me lovin's, buddy? So some tips on kind of how to keep your water from freezing. That has been another big issue that we've had, is our water freezing. And really it's just been from lack of I guess making it a priority. Not because we don't see it as a priority, obviously we do. We've seen the results and the consequences of not ensuring that our water doesn't freeze. And seriously, the only thing, okay, so a couple things we had to do. So in the early part of the winter, we weren't completely prepared in the fact that we still had like a water hose coming from our camper instead of having the pipe like underground. So obviously the water hose was freezing a lot. Once we got that kind of the pipe underground and we have heated insulation tape on it, it's been a lot better. The only thing we have to make sure is that when we know it's going to get down into like the teens and the negatives, just making sure that our faucets have a little bit of running water at all times. If we forget to leave it running or my cat knocks it off like in the kitchen or something, that's when it'll freeze and it takes it a couple days. We have had a couple instances. Dirk, stop, you're being loud. He's chasing his tail right now. We've had a couple instances where we had to put a tiny space heater down underneath the floor, like in our basement storage space, near the pipes, and heat it up just to unfreeze them or unthaw them. Another thing with freezing pipes, so I'm gonna make a separate video where I talk more about the like disasters that have happened, where we went wrong, newbie mistakes. I'm gonna make a video on that if you all would like to see it, because we've made a few. But one that happened in the winter time was the previous owner had put a water filter in our like pipes down below, like the water system. I mean, I'm still new, I don't know a lot about this stuff. My stepdad luckily does. We had a water filter down there that froze and busted, and there were a couple things that went into that. My husband had accidentally left one of the compartments where he keeps all of his like some of his stuff. Like he had left it a little like open a little bit somehow. I think he didn't shut it properly, and that kind of caused it to bust. It was also super duper cold, and so unfortunately the water filter busted. Water went everywhere. It flooded underneath the camper. We had a little bit of water starting to come into the camper, so that was a disaster. Now we don't have the water filter anymore, I don't think. I think what my stepdad and my husband did was they reworked it to where we didn't need it, I think. I'm not really sure about that, but just be aware if you have a water filter that it could freeze and bust. So I've touched on a lot of different things. A couple other things that we've had to deal with during the winter is just because of the heat sources that we have. Our breaker kicks often, which it kicks a lot anyways. I mean, when you're living in it and you're using that much electricity, it's easy for your breaker to kick. Luckily we have like a breaker box that is attached to our, or we have electricity that is attached to the building beside of us, which is what we're able to pull electricity from, because this is not on a permanent foundation, so technically you can't have electricity and stuff like that. We learned that the hard way. But because the building beside of us is a permanent spot, we're able to run electricity from it. And so what we have ended up having to do is that breaker box, or whatever you want to call it, electricity pole, whatever, has an extra outlet on it. So my stepdad ran an extension cord from that into our camper, which we have put the heat, one of the heaters on. That way we have more electricity available within the camper itself, and it doesn't kick the breaker as much. That has helped a lot, because honestly we have, most of the time we have to keep these heaters running 24/7 when it gets into those really cold temperatures. So that's something you have to deal with, is just your breaker kicking. It can be very annoying, especially like my husband when he's watching TV or he's recording something and it just obviously throws all that off. But I mean, it's not the end of the world, it's just inconvenient. The last thing that I have noticed, and I kind of hope this is normal, I've heard other people talking, other RVers talking about it, so I think it is, it's just the condensation that gets in your camper. I wasn't really aware of that. So unfortunately we have had some like condensation like near the windows or like on the walls when it's gotten really cold and then thawed out from the heat. I've noticed it within the camper a little bit. I've heard that that's normal. I hope it is. It's just a little bit of condensation. It's not like a water leak, so to speak. So I think like just if we were able to open some windows and stuff, it would help dry that out. That has been something that I never knew about or wasn't aware of, and honestly it has taken a little bit of a toll on our paint on the vinyl walls. Like in here all the walls are fine, but I've noticed some peeling and chipping a little bit in the bedroom. So that's something that I'll probably look at this spring and summer and see if maybe I can repaint some of the different parts that are having issues, and maybe go about it a little bit differently with different paint. I did use primer and paint, so I don't really know what the issue is. So we'll just have to figure out. That's the only issues I've had with the paint, is back there really, where it's peeling. Everywhere else is pretty good. Alright, so I think that is pretty much everything that I had on my list to talk about living in a camper during the winter time. If you all have any other questions, leave them down in the comments. I always try to answer them as best as I can. And if you have any other specific questions about living in an RV or video ideas that you all would like me to touch on, of course leave those ideas down in the comments and I will try to make videos on them. I want to to help you all any way that I can and just be a resource of information for you. So don't forget to check out the links down below in the description box. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to check back here on my channel. I post around 3 videos a week, so just always be on the lookout. Right now I'm posting Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell, and I will catch you on my next video. Bye guys.
I'm just gonna close my eyes and pretend that I'm not here. All these empty faces talking about problems, I don't care. I can't wait till sundown cause my body's aching. I just wanna dance, I just wanna dance. Don't you wanna party? Standing in the crowd feeling hot.